Hi everyone, this is Chad Hill and I have Adam Stetzer with me on the phone.
Good afternoon everybody, thanks for coming.
Today we're going to talk about on-site optimization. So we haven't hit this topic in a while, and it's one that we do get a lot of questions about, so we're excited to spend some time talking about it today, and let's get going. One of the things that I've noticed is that we actually had a lot of pretty high attendance at this particular webinar, and I think that oftentimes Adam and I, and the years that we've been doing this, get way down into the weeds of the very technical, detailed stuff, and sometimes forget that there's a lot of you that are relatively new to SEO, and so I think that was probably a reason that so many people were this particular webinar is pretty well attended. So I wanted to step back and just talk a little bit about the SEO phases, a project, how we would approach an SEO project before we get into on-site optimization. So I think we've talked about this with a lot of you, and many times when we're on the phone, one of the first things we talk about are which keywords are we trying to rank on. And I think that's really where all SEO projects need to start, is first understanding what are your potential customers searching for. And since the last time we talked about this, there's been nothing really too new in the area, but with the web grader, I think we've made this initial part of keyword selection, and at least getting an initial set of potential keyword targets, a lot easier for everyone, including us. So whereas before we talked a lot about going out and trying to use the Google keyword research tool and maybe going and looking for some competitors and trying to see what keywords were in their title tags, we've now made that a lot easier, because now you can take your customer's website, your potential client's website, and their competitors and run it through a web grader and get back a pretty nice list of potential keyword targets and where they do well and where they don't do well. So, just thinking about the SEO, a typical SEO engagement, this is really where it starts, and there's a nice tool that you have now, the web grader, to jump in there and start working on finding those keywords that are going to be important. Some other sources that we definitely recommend are Google Analytics, so what keywords are driving traffic today, and then there are some other tools out there that you can use, although again we pulled a lot of this information into the web grader where you can find other historical search data. So that's really where we often start with the keyword research. The next thing that we get into is really actually running a campaign. And there's two main parts to that. One are the initial on-site updates, which we're going to talk mostly about today, but the other one is link building. So I wanted to make sure we sort of, again, framed how we believe and what other experts believe the importance of on-site optimization versus link building and off-site optimization. So our general approach, and everything we talk about on our website and talk to each and every one of you about, is that roughly speaking, we believe that a site's ability to sort of rank is 30% on-site optimization, what kind of content and title tags and links are on the website, and 70% off-site optimization. And honestly, if you got 5 or 6 people together, some people might give you slightly different numbers, 35, 65, 80, 20, but at the end of the day, the main point is that the bulk of what's going to make a site rank is its backlink, the number of links to the website and where those links come from and how those links are formed. But we do firmly believe that on-site optimization is a critical part of the equation. So we often say that it's necessary but not sufficient. So you can go out and you can build the largest website you've ever thought of with thousands of web pages, perfectly written with the right density and the right internal linking structure. And that website probably has no better of chance of ranking on that topic than a website that had 30 pages that were poorly written about that topic. In fact, you could probably get the one that had 30 pages, lower quality content, to rank better if you built a lot of links to that website than you would by leaving the one with thousands of pages standing alone, sort of out there on the web with no backlink structure at all. So just again, before we start walking through the on-site optimization and what we do recommend that you do, we want you to keep that in mind. Now, I will say, again, before we get into the specifics here, that on-site optimization is very important, because it can make the website move up the rankings a lot faster. So as you start building links to the website, if there are two exactly similar websites that you started on the same day and you put the same, written by different people, so it's not duplicate content, but same general type of quality of content with the same general density, and you basically start building links to both those sites in the same day. But you went in and you optimized some of the on-site portions on one of the websites. So you made the title tag on the homepage better, and you maybe looked at the density of the homepage and worked on some internal links and put fresh content on it. There is no doubt that that website will move up in the rankings faster than the one that just kind of sits there with not an optimized title tag or content on the pages and doesn't get more frequently updated. So again, necessary but not sufficient. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about.
Yeah, we had a nice comment coming from one of our resellers here saying, when I sell this, it's 30% what you say about yourself and 70% about what others say about you. And I think that's a nice way to frame that and a nice sales pitch to use. That's good. Thanks for the comment.
Yeah, that's a great great comment. So in terms of the SEO factors, there are really four things that sort of comes down to. One are the links to your website, and we just talked about how that's critically important. So what we often talk about is finding other sites with relevant content that the search engines rank highly, and pursue links from those sites to your sites with relevant anchor text. The second part is actually an on-site component, and that's page content. And identifying I'm just going to read through this, but identify your keyword phrases, e.g. mutual funds, and include content on the pages that is relevant to those keywords. So that's on your website, making sure that there is the keywords that you're focusing on are present on the website. And I will just stop here on this point and say there are oftentimes people come to us and say, I want to rank on this keyword, and I'm doing everything I know how to do, but I just can't seem to rank on it. I'll go into Google and I'll do site : their website domain name, and then in quotes the keyword they're looking for. And maybe that keyword is present on their website once or twice. So there are a lot of times where people just miss the whole idea that you do need that keyword on your website. It has to be there. So that's something to remember. The other one is then on-site page optimization. So these are the sort of the meta tags, the behind-the-scenes tags like title, description, and other things that a browser to the website, a user of the website, may not directly see unless they're looking in the title tag, which is usually in the browser tab bar. But these are things that, again, help describe the page to the search engines. So those are important. There's some that are not as important as maybe they once were. Like people still ask us, do I need to have something in the keyword tag? And that's one of those tags that really hasn't been a part of helping, or that most search engines, or I'd say all search engines, have not used for many years. So we don't really anymore put anything in the keyword tag because most search engines don't even use it, and at least all the ones that are important don't use it. And then the final thing is domain authority and age, and so that's of your website. So a website that's 4 or 5 years old is going to, regardless of how many links, with comparing two websites, both of them the same, one 5 years old, one 1 year old, the one that's 5 years old is more than likely going to have more domain authority because it's been around longer. So that's the age, but also the number of links that are going back to that website are also important. So the interesting thing about these factors is that these factors apply for not only your website, but also the websites that are linking to you. So that's really sort of a topic of more of a link building type of webinar, where we talk about how when we're building links to the website, we're taking into account all of these factors and trying to figure out how do we maximize the impact of every link we build by making sure the page, the article in our case, because we do a lot of article marketing, the page that the link is from has the keyword that we're targeting, that the link itself from that website to your website contains the keyword anchor text, and then ultimately the domains where we're putting this content are as authoritative as we can make them. So those are really those factors. These same factors come into play when we're building the links to the website, just like they do with actually optimizing the website for the on-site factors.
One question for you here that came in: why do links count more as they age, and why is it exactly that that's important?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I think generally the idea is that things that have been around longer, I think it's really just a factor of the way Google has written their algorithm. It's that they believe that if a link has been around longer, that vote counts more because it's an older vote. And so therefore, more than likely that also the site that it's sitting on has been around longer. So that means that it's less likely to have popped up overnight to try to in some way, manipulate the rankings. So if that's been around longer, it's a more authoritative site, and therefore the link from that site to your site counts more. And Adam, I don't know if you have any other follow-ons on that.
I think that's right. My recollection is that there were problems with the hit-and-run linkers and the people trying to manipulate the rankings, and Google would call that web spam. Chad knows I don't really like that term, but there were people who had figured out they could hold hordes of links, point them at a site, and drive the rankings. This was before some algo changes a good 4 and 5 years ago. And so one of the ways that Google decided to combat that type of manipulation was by adding the age of the link and how long the link had been up and how consistent the link was as a factor. And they found that was very successful in putting some of these hit-and-run SERP rank manipulators out of business.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that that question was asked because it's also been in the world of social media and Twitter and Facebook that one of the things that Google has been criticized for is that sometimes their search results are stale, and so there's a lot of other things they've done to try to bring in more recent information, but that has less to do with their sort of core ranking algorithm than it does just them integrating other sources of information like their news feeds and other things into their sort of normal search results page. So, for the traditional organic rankings, age is definitely still a factor, but it's just one part, right? So again, and just using sort of the extreme examples, if all of a sudden every top tier news publication in America started linking to a website, so in other words, all those websites are very authoritative. The links are relatively new. They all start linking to one website. The power of those sites linking to a new website might outweigh another website that was ranking on a certain term that's been around longer because their backlinks weren't quite as powerful. So every link there is, and when we talk about these factors, every one of these factors is just a function of the total ranking, right? So if you just focus on age, you're going to miss the fact that authority of linking domains is also an important factor. So you have to kind of consider that every one of these is just a weighted average, and that's how ultimately the rankings work.
And that relates well to another question that came in here, Chad, which is, isn't there also an issue with links dropping off after a certain amount of time that can affect your rankings?
Yeah, no, definitely, and we've seen that where links that we might have a website goes down because people have websites out there that they think they're going to make a lot of ad revenue from or something, and so they toy with it for a couple years, and eventually they decide, nope, that's not going to work. We're going to shut our website down. So we have seen times when websites go away or websites just have a server issue and how that can impact the rankings. So there's definitely something to the idea that a link leaving is oftentimes not good either. And I'll tell. And one other thing on that point is that one of the reasons that we strongly believe in article marketing and not buying and renting links and paying on a monthly basis is because of just that factor. If you ideally want that every month that you're spending the money to write a piece of content that goes out onto a site that then links back to the website, that content will stay around. Whereas if you buy a link from somebody and you decide that you're going to stop paying for that on a monthly basis, that link goes away. So you can see your rankings go down versus sort of the slower, if you will, sometimes way of going out and writing content and putting it on various websites, that will stick with you even if at some point you decide to stop doing it. So that's, again, why we kind of firmly believe in our approach to link building versus buying links in some way.
Cool. And another one here for you while we're talking about it. If a client needs us to use 301 redirects to a new domain, does that domain's authority and the link authority transfer to the new domain? It's very timely. Chad, we were just talking about this with a client this morning.
Yeah. So I have a slide somewhere that I've pulled up before. The general sort of conventional wisdom on that is that, yes, let's just say, let's try to illustrate in our, sort of think about this, like there's a website with 10 links to it. Those 10 links are pointing to, just call it domain 1. You now decide to call your company domain 2. So you can go and essentially put something on the server at domain 1 to say, I no longer exist. Link over to domain 2. So you can do that, and that will in fact sort of reconfigure the search engines to point the data over to, or the link juice over to domain 2. But my general belief is that it's not as good as if those 10 links also then you went back to the people and said, hey, move all my links over to domain 2. Because if you think about it, there's sort of this funnel going on where it's funneling into domain 1 and then it's pointing the link juice over to domain 2. So it's going to help, certainly better than not doing anything. But ideally, you would want to, also, if you could, if there were some really powerful links, point them over to domain 2. Adam, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think that's well put. Matt Cutts is on record saying 301s will pass link juice, and that's what they're used for. But I also agree with Chad that they are second best, so I think there is some little ding that you get. They don't count as strongly as a direct link. And a related question that came in while we were talking is, does that work if you are redirecting to domain 2 without shutting down domain 1? I think that gets into a whole bunch of interesting questions and perhaps duplicate content issues.
Yeah. So, typically the way a domain that without getting into something black hattish where you're trying to sort of tell a search engine that, that it's been 301 directed but a user not, which I don't think that's the intention. I mean, the issue with a 301 redirect is that if you're talking about a deep link on some subpage, I think you could do that. But if you're talking about the home page, you would almost, if you 301 redirect a home page, you are in effect sort of transitioning the whole site anyway. So I'm sure there's probably some scenarios that you could go through where, yes, it's a deep page. It was a deep product page that we've decided now to spin off as its own domain, and sure, that probably will work fine. But if you 301 redirected your home page, you effectively would be 301 redirecting the whole site.
Right. So I agree. I wouldn't mess around with this too much because you don't want to signal that you're trying to manipulate. If you really are moving your domain, great, 301 it. But otherwise, and if you've got straggler pages that used to be live and aren't, as Chad said, 301 them up to the home page. And then the last one here, and we'll let you move off the slide, is, are you going to talk about keyword density?
Yes, I'm going to talk about it. So that's a good segue to where to place keywords. I have two sections here, and again, I think we've boiled down on-site SEO to really the core things you need to be thinking about. In fact, I think it's really on this slide. So a lot of times we have people come to us that want to engage us for these big on-site SEO projects, and we've tried several times to make an on-site SEO project a big deal, but every time we do, it always ends up sort of blowing up in our face because it's just not that big of a deal, unless you're really going to rewrite the content on a client's website. So if that's your core area, that you're an expert content writer and you want to rewrite all their content from a marketing and from an SEO standpoint, I do believe actually there could be a very big project there. But when you come in and say, I'm just going to go in and tweak your website with density checks and title tag updates, I think there's only so much you really need to do to sort of cover off and check off the on-site optimization box in terms of how to optimize your website. And then honestly, anything left over, you'd probably be better off investing in link building or potentially ongoing content additions to the website. So with that being said, let's go through this. One-time updates. Assuming that you've picked the keywords and you know that they're good keywords and you want to rank on them, put it once in the title tag, maybe twice if there's sort of two flavors of that particular keyword. And generally speaking, make it sound good. Don't keyword stuff title tags, because we'll talk about it in a minute. It becomes kind of part of the ad copy of the website. Put it once in the header, the heading tag H1. Not all websites anymore have H1s, but if they do, put it in there. That's a lot about a design. But really, for the most part, if you don't have an H1, get it into some section of the title of the page that's not in the title tag, but on the core part of the page, where it's pretty high up on the page and maybe in a larger font. We recommend getting the keyword into the body of the text, the body copy, at least 3 times. So again, that may be more if you have a really long piece of content, maybe a little less if it's very short, but as a general rule, we're talking about 3%. So someone's going to say, well, what percentage density are you looking for? And I have this little graphic here to the left, which is pulled out of SEO Quake, which has a nice little density check tool, and we'll look at that in a second. But the main thing is that your target keyword have the highest density. I think that's really what we're looking for. So is there some sweet spot where it's like 1.1, 1.6, 5.0? There's probably a point at which it's too much, and definitely 5.0 would be enough, or 5% or higher would be way too much. But I think our general advice is somewhere in the 1.5% range. And Adam, I'll defer to you on that a little bit. Is there any new thinking on how much of a density you're looking for?
I think what you've got, I mean, it depends on the page itself, how much text is there, because some densities with very little text really stand out as they look high, but they're not, because there's not a lot of text on the page, versus if you wrote 600 words and your density was 9%, I think Google would surely see that as keyword stuffing. So there's some variability based on the type of page you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, I'd say also the length of the keyword, because obviously trying to get a high density on a 3 or 4 word keyword is going to look a lot different than trying to get it on a 2-word keyword, because it's just, the reality of, think about green building in the case of what we're talking about here. You could, talk about a lot of different things with green building and not have it look overly, not have it be stuffed with keywords, whereas if it was a longer 3 or 4 word keyword, it would be very awkward to write that keyword lots and lots of times. So, this is again some directional, subjective advice, but we say try for 3. But the main thing is, when you're looking at the actual density of the page, you want it to be up there in terms of, it doesn't have to always be the #1 keyword, probably should be, but either the first or second would be best. If you control your URLs, get in the URL. So I wouldn't recommend going in and going crazy if you have an existing site of changing all the URLs, especially if they're already indexed. But if you're talking about a new website and you're trying to figure out what do you want your URL structure to be, getting the keyword in there is definitely going to help. So include that. And then get it into the meta description tag a couple times, once or more. So that's really what we would look at on a one-time basis. And what we would do, and what we do in our SEO checks that we do, either the basic or the more detailed one, is we always pick a target page for a particular keyword, and then we basically look at that target keyword against the page we're selecting, and we make updates. Now again, just some from our experience, in the early days, we used to kind of take the website and say, we're just going to take this random page over here and make it about this keyword. And we would go in and change the image alt tags, and we do all sorts of stuff. And we realized that in the end, that just didn't really make a lot of sense. What makes more sense is if you have if you don't have a good target page for a particular keyword, you're better off going down to the bottom section and writing a blog post about it than you are trying to sort of, make a page that's really about something totally different about a keyword. So, that's typically what we recommend, is that if we don't find a good page on a particular keyword, we're saying, hey, write a new blog post, put up a new product or service page, because it just isn't that hard, and it's way better than trying to make a page that's about contacting us really on some keyword that doesn't have anything to do with that page.
Yeah, that's good. And before you sweat over just how much density you go for, and I need to use this word more, I think your time is better spent working on confirmatory signals, these other things that Chad's pointed out. So it's on the page enough that it's dense. It's not used once. It's used a couple times, so that signals I'm one of the candidates that this page is about. But then it shows up in the URL string, in the H1, a couple other places, and this is where the 30 and the 70% start to marry. Those inbound anchor texts coming from your inbound links over in that 70% of offsite will then confirm to Google, say, oh, the density on this word might only be 1.2%, which isn't all that high, and there are other phrases that are higher, but I'm getting inbound links with this phrase in it, and that confirms, okay, now Google knows what this page is about, and it's going to start ranking.
Right. Okay, so once that's done and you have your 10 or 20 or 5 keywords, because again, picking keywords that actually have good search volume is sometimes more important than having 50 or 60 keywords you're targeting. But once that's done, you do need to have some sort of ongoing update to the website. And so, we've said here that make it a monthly blog or article post, where before you do that blog post or the article, consider one of the target keywords and sit down and write an article about that keyword. And then one of the things that is important is that, assuming again you've already picked your primary target page, when you do write that blog post with the density on that keyword, this is similar again to same stuff we're doing offsite, you will somewhere in that blog post want to have a link back to your target page. So let's just take the example of green building. So you have a page on your website that is supposed to be about green building, and then you know that every month you need to write a new piece of content. So this month you decide that you're going to write that piece of content about green building. You want to write that content, and then somewhere in that, in one of the mentions of green building, because there will be some in the body of the content you write, you want to hyperlink that or link that over to your target green building page. So if you think about it again, what's happening is that you have this target piece of content on your website that has that 1.2 or 1.5, whatever the density is, %, and then as Adam said, that page has links coming from other places, other websites, which is that confirmatory signal saying, hey, not only is this keyword on this page, but there's other sites linking to this page that are also linking with that keyword. So, okay, that gives us one confirmatory signal. And then the other thing is that there's pages on this site that also link to this page with that, again, with that target keyword. So, if I'm Google, I'm saying, hey, I've got several pages on this website that have green building on it, but most of the pages link to this one page on the website about green building. And by the way, there's a bunch of links coming from outside the website to this page also that link, that are about green building, that link to the website with green building. So that's ultimately, the signal that, yes, this is our target page. It's about green building, and put us in the rankings because we want traffic on this term. That's kind of how this works.
Good, and we got a question here, so and it might be a little confusing, but how important are on-site inbound links?
Yeah, I think they're useful, they're important, and just like I was mentioning, you do want them because if there's some, we've had some clients where they want their homepage is ranking on a term, and they really want to move that ranking to a subpage, or vice versa. They've had subpages and they want to move it to the homepage. So one of the ways you can sort of help signal to Google which page on your website you want to rank on a certain topic is by having other pages on the website linked to that target page with the anchor text you're looking for. So whether that be a blog post or whether that be, again, oftentimes when you're talking about sort of a product or a service, there's sort of the general service and then there's some subcategory services below that. So if the subcategory services link back to the main general page, that's a signal that, hey, this is what we want our target to be for this particular term. So I do think it's important. I don't think that you need to go, usually what I say is when we identify a page as a target page and we go through and help improve the density, get the right keywords in the title tag, think about the description tag. Well, what I often will do is go, again, Google the site, go site colon, the domain name of the site, and then put my keyword in, see what other pages come up towards the top of the ranking with that keyword in it, and then I look at those pages and say, I should probably put an internal link on these pages back to my target page. Because essentially what you're doing is Googling your site for which page is most relevant on the keyword you're searching for. So you'll get some pages back. You can then link those pages to your target page, and that will help things out a little bit.
Good. And someone asked, does this apply to footer links as well? And yeah, the answer is, links in the footer are still hyperlinks just like any other link. They just don't happen to be surrounded by as much text. But you can still use that as a way to point the link juice. I mean, I think if you're struggling with this topic, one way to think about it is every page in your entire website has a certain amount of authority link juice, we call it juice, and you can target that and move it around and sort of direct how it flows through your site. So these on-site, cross-site links, even footer links, are a way of letting the link juice on all these different subpages funnel through and point at certain places that you want to make important. And then by using anchor text, which is keyword specific, you're even further refining how that link juice flows and is passed from page to page, all of which is picked up by Google and is understood and is in their contemplation of which page should I show for any given keyword.
Right. And just to kind of put this in perspective, this kind of stuff we're talking about right now, I would say this what they kind of call sculpting of your, the link juice and how to point to the right page. It doesn't really matter, again, if you don't have any links to your website. This is a fairly advanced topic, and what the big sites are thinking about when they know they have this very authoritative domain with thousands and thousands of pages. And so if you were to go in and do probably a SEO engagement at GE, this probably is the kind of stuff you're going to be talking about more than you're going to be talking about building links to the website, because their domains already have a tremendous amount of authority. They probably have lots and lots of other sites out there that they can already sort of harness and link around to their own properties. But for the traditional or for the normal sort of small to medium business, the on-site SEO is really this sort of fairly technical sculpting of where you want link juice flowing on the website is usually not something that is that important for those smaller websites.
Yeah, that's well put. And in fact, Matt Cutts has even said, don't overdo it. Back a few years ago, you'll remember this, Chad, everybody got crazy about sculpting, and we were putting no follows on our own internal links, and Google finally came out and said, you guys, don't do that. Just let the link juice flow naturally through your site, and just try to be natural about it, because they've built their algorithm to sort of recognize natural. So again, in real concrete terms, you're talking to one of your clients and trying to help them understand on-site SEO. Let's take a carpet cleaner in Portland. What you should be telling them is, look, you've got your 4 or your 5 big terms where you get your business. I want you to blog at least every 2 weeks, preferably once a week, and use one of those 4 or 5 terms in an anchor text link up to the homepage every time you do it, and rotate. And that's about as technical as you have to get. If they do that, and we all know many of them won't, most of them won't, or if you sell them a service to do it for them, even better, and you just rotate through and you anchor text that to the homepage, you will have accomplished 99% of what you need for on-site linking.
Right. Okay, so I wanted to just remind everyone and kind of think about this, and this is a relatively new concept and something people often don't think about, but remember that your title tag and your description has sort of become the ad copy of what you're going to see in Google. So you can see here that I think I pulled up here, Roadrunner Sports, and I searched for running shoe. And you can see that, if you look at a traditional ad at the top of the screen from Zappos, in AdWords, you go in, you write a description, I write a title, and you get 2 lines of a description, and then you get your display URL. So, this is what someone at Zappos or their agency is actually writing for ad copy. Well, the organic result looks a lot like the ad. The difference is that this stuff is being pulled directly off of your website, and the blue underlined portion is being pulled out of your title tag, and the description, the sort of 2 lines below it, are being pulled from your description tag. So when you write these title tags, this is one of the reasons you don't really want to stuff it with a bunch of keywords, because ultimately it's what someone, when they're making a decision about what to click on, is going to see and click. So the guideline is keep your title tag around 60 characters so it doesn't run off the screen with ... and keep your description tag somewhere around 160, or definitely under 160, so again it doesn't run off the screen and have the ... So that's just something to remember when you're in optimizing content, that this will become an ad in some ways that you might want to think about. But I just, as a word of caution, don't go crazy. Make sure you put your keyword in there, because you can write the best ad in the world, but if your keyword's not in that ad, then the chances, again, of your website ranking on that particular keyword go down. So you need to work your keyword in, but also think about what someone would see on the screen as well. Okay, so some of our favorite plugins to help manage SEO. A lot of our clients and a lot of the websites that we work with are WordPress, which we love. The two plugins that we recommend are the All-in-One SEO plugin. It's great for managing your title and your meta tags. And also there's a plugin called Redirection, which is very good for handling your 301 redirects. So especially if you're porting or moving the website from an older CMS or not a CMS into WordPress, you're definitely going to want to use Redirection to handle all your 301 redirects. And the beauty of it is, if you do miss some, there's a log area on the Redirection plugin that will tell you which pages someone's trying to get to that are essentially resulting in 404 errors, and gives you an opportunity to take those and redirect them over to a new page. The other plugin, if we were using Joomla, is the SH404 SEF plugin. It's a mouthful, but what that does is it handles actually all three. So you can use that plugin to manage the title tag updates, any sort of meta updates, so that would be the description tag, and then also handle all of your redirects also through that plugin. So again, those are the two CMSs we tend to run into most often. I Drupal a little bit more frequently. I think Drupal has a built-in SEO plugin. So those are the two that we typically use when working with WordPress or Joomla. Okay, coming to an end on sort of the topics here, but I did want to mention that we've written quite a bit about this over the past 4 years or so. So if you go to our website under resources, and then under there's a tags section, we do have an on-site SEO tag, so you can get a look at all of our blog posts that Adam's put out or that I've written about handling some of these topics that we're talking about.
And a question for you, Chad. I'm a little confused on what HubHub Shot does as a part of the package when it comes to content and on-site updates. Can you go over that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two different programs. We have our local 1 and local 2 SEO programs, or actually our local 1, local 2, and regional programs that we kind of consider our smaller website programs, less competitive keyword website programs. And then we have our standard and up SEO programs. So for the smaller programs, what we do is we do our basic SEO checklist. So when you sign off in an SOW to initiate a program with HubShot, you enter keywords. And so what we do is the first thing, from the moment you push that button to execute the program, we immediately start making assignments for link building, but at the same time, an assignment goes out to one of our analysts to do an on-site SEO checklist. And so what they do is they, in the most basic one, for a lot of small websites, we're just looking at the homepage. So we look at the homepage, and we analyze title tag, we analyze the content and the density on that page, and we make recommendations for how you can better incorporate those changes. On the detailed one, we typically do 10 pages. So we take 10 keywords, we pick 10 different pages that should be the targets, and then we do the same type of analysis. We look at what is the title tag right, is the description tag have density, what's the density of the keyword on the page. We're not going to rewrite that content. We're going to give you recommendations on what you can do, but because that's sort of the marketing copy of the client's website, we're just going to give you that checklist, and then you can take it from there. Now, as an upgrade, you can ask us if it's in WordPress or HTML or Joomla. Those are the three kind of website types that we support. We will actually log in and make the changes to that website, and then really honestly from there, we can have one of our copywriters write marketing copy. We can have one of our copywriters, but these are all things that are sort of add-ons to our standard program. So we actually have writers who can do blog posts. If you want to get into some sort of ongoing blogging regime or program, we can help you do that as well. So those are all things that are part of our services that you can add on.
Yeah, that hits this next question perfectly. So could you guys give us a rewrite rate, say, per 100 words? I personally think telling a client that their density is wrong without rewriting it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think Chad just covered that. Our standard on-site checkup doesn't do that, but we've got plenty of folks here with the talent to do it. And just a little plug here, if you haven't checked out our blog to see our new expanded Rochester facility, we've recently moved into a much bigger space and have been expanding like mad, so there are actually a lot of new faces around who could help you with that if you needed it. And that wraps up our questions, Chad.
Okay, great. The last thing I was going to do is just quickly take a look at like a nice tool we use for density check. So I'm just going to open up my browser here and look at our good old our favorite VetHubs account. And actually, I think VetHubs is one of those kind of cobbler's kids have no shoes kind of examples, because the density on the homepage is not probably fall into exactly the lines that we're talking about here, but we'll take a look at this really fast. So this is the SEO Quake toolbar, and there's some nice metrics here that give you some page rank, which again, the reported page rank here is probably way different than what it really is. Google's behind on publishing it. But what I really like about the SEO Quake toolbar is their density, keyword density tool. So I'm just going to click on this. So I go to whatever page I want, click on density, and they pull back a nice little density check for any given page. So what you can see here are some stats. It gives you the title tag, and then basically as you scroll down and look at some of the websites, some of the keywords in here, you can see that basically one of our target keywords, veterinary websites, is down here with a 0.82% density. Now I think we've over time done some more tweeting and talking about some current events and stuff, so we've decreased our density on veterinary websites and vet websites. But what I can see here is how many times this keyword is on the page, that it's also in the title, and that's a nice little tool that you can use when you are checking keyword density on your client sites. And also down at the bottom, if you want to look at the original text, it pulls all that in, and this is what it's using for keyword density checking. So SEO Quake is one tool that we use for that. The other thing I wanted to mention, we again use the Google keyword tool. We use our own website grader. I mentioned checking site indexes. So here's an example. Let's go to the VetHubs example again. So if I was looking for pages on the site that we might want to have a link over to the home page, I can do site:vethubs.com. So what that's telling Google is just search this site that I'm putting in, vethubs.com, and I'm going to search for veterinary website, I think is the keyword. Okay, and you can see here that these are the pages on the site that have veterinary websites. So here's an article that was written on the website. Here's another article that was written on the website about veterinary websites. And so these would be good candidates, and my guess is that if I went to these, you'll find that somewhere in here we link back to our homepage. So Actually, this has a tag back to the tag page. So, basically, those are some of the tools I use when I'm looking for places to link. I would, look at these pages and then use those as good potential keyword places to link back to a particular site. The same thing can hold true, like if someone came in and said, well, I want to, my top keyword is veterinary websites. Let's make it something different, lawyer websites. Okay, so I want to know how often on the site vethubs.com is that there. This is a very good example, and what we see a lot of times where people come to us saying, I want to rank on the term lawyer websites and my on the site vethubs.com, and we say that keyword's not anywhere on your website, so the chances of you ranking on it are very low. So I really like the site vethubs.com. It's usually, or site domain. It's a great way of seeing kind of what's in the Google index. The other nice trick here, as we're wrapping up here, is to see what kinds of what the title tags of any website are. So you can just kind of see, what's in the index for a particular website. There are 939 pages in the index for vethubs.com, and you can actually go through and kind of check and see what title tags and whatnot are in the website or are in the index. So those are two tools that we use a lot. The last one is for keyword tracking using the HubHub Shot dashboard, and then also, of course, I mentioned the Web Grader is a great way of getting keywords that you might want to work on.
Yeah, those are solid. I mean, I use SEO Quake and Site every single day, so that's a good list.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone very much. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with a new webinar.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. It was great talking to you. Have a good one.